Hello, I'm Scott Sackett. Thank you for joining me tonight as I talk about Villains and Vigilantes and Mighty Protectors and especially War Heroes. If you enjoy this podcast, this video, please take a second and subscribe, and I'll hopefully produce more content that will entertain you. Anyway, I want to talk about Villains and Vigilantes. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while. I don't talk about a lot of role-playing stuff on my channel, but I do talk a lot about comics because I'm a big comics fan. So when I was a kid, I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by my cousin, and he gave me the original 3-book box set that me and some of my friends played. As I got a little bit older, towards the late 70s, I was probably 11 or 12. I was really into comic books, and I was into Dungeons and Dragons, and I saw a book called Superhero 2044, or Superhero 44, and I picked it up as a local hobby shop. I picked it up, and I was completely baffled by the book. The world setting was great, but the rules were very rudimentary. They were more arcane than the first Dungeons and Dragons rules, as if that was possible. But I was still fascinated with it. I still devoured it. It had some great art by a guy named Mike Cagle, I believe. Just had some really cool stuff in it. And so I picked that up, and I was fascinated with it. But I never really discovered how to play it. As an example, the powers rules in Superhero 2044 was get with the DM, and he'll make up powers for you. And I was used to Dungeons and Dragons, where, while everything wasn't spelled out, it was certainly a little more spelled out than that. But like I said, I like the rules. I read the rules. I like the background about the story and some of the world building that went on. There were some interesting concepts in there. Anyway, so a few years later, I found this. I think this came out in 79. Oh, yeah, it says on the cover 79. Now, this is not my original copy. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But it's Villains and Vigilantes. And Villains and Vigilantes is, it's very, we'll call it Dungeons and Dragons inspired. But it is a complete game. It's a regular game. And a lot of people don't like it because of this right here, or they're resistant to it because of this. And basically it's the idea of, you roll for your powers. You roll for your origin to figure out what kind of character you are, and then you roll on these power charts. And I thought this was brilliant as a kid. I loved this. I thought it was so cool because I'd grown up reading Marvel comics where when you got your powers, it was an accident, or it was a mutation, or something like that, and the randomness just really appealed to me. And so me and a few of my friends played this. Now, it had some flaws in it. This was the combat chart. So the combat chart is real similar to Dungeons and Dragons. If you're familiar with the old Dungeons and Dragons, where you rolled on an armor class chart, but you would roll. These are all the attack powers. These are all the defense powers. You find your attack, whatever power you're using. The defender finds their best defense, and that's what you got to roll under, I believe. Now, it's been a while since I played this, to be honest with you, but I just pulled this out of the closet, and I was like, this is so cool. Anyway, so I liked this as a kid, and one day I was a little bit older. I was probably 16, so it's probably 82 or 83, and I went to the mall, and there was a new hobby shop in the mall, and they had this box set, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't remember how much I paid for this. Money was tight when I was a kid, like a lot of kids. When I was 16, in fact, I stopped buying comic books when I was 16 because I couldn't afford comic books and gasoline for my car. But anyway, I saw this, and I immediately bought it, and we played the crap out of this game. Now, this is the box set. This is the second edition. Okay, so as I recall, now I'm treading here on my memory. As I recall, it came with dice. These dice. Now, I'm not sure if you look at the die. Now, some of these I know it didn't come with, But if you look at the dice, they're 2 different colors. But I know, okay, so one of these 8-siders I bought from Game Science. I know that because it came in a set that they call Ugly Dice. I remember I got it, I thought, I have a dice exactly like that. So these others are Game Science dice. I don't think this came with the set either. So I don't know if it had mismatched dice colors, but I remember it came with dice something like this. So these are probably some of the oldest dice I have. I don't know where my dice from when I was a kid went. But anyway, a younger kid, I should say. So when I was like 16, we played quite a bit of this. Now this is the updated rules. This is the 2nd edition, and I consider this perfect. Now again, I haven't played in a while. There's a lot more art in the newer one. The layout's a little more polished, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what all they changed exactly. And there are other videos that talk about that a little bit. But this is a great rule set for my money. If you want to, now within reason, if you want to replicate, if you want to play comic books, to me this is the way to go, because this is such a fast-playing game. And I haven't played everything. I know there's a lot of newer stuff out. I tried to learn Champions, but it seemed like such a slog to try and get through it. And to me, a superhero game should be a fast play game, and this is a fast play game. You know, and so I loved this as a kid, and so I had this, and this is my box set that I had from when I was a kid. So it's got this in it, and it came with this, and this module is awesome. In fact, I may run my Dungeons & Dragons group through this. They don't like superhero stuff, though, so maybe tough on them. But this is called There's a Crisis at Crusader Citadel. And it's basically, the premise is all the superheroes, I'm going off memory here, but all the characters get invited to join this group called the Crusaders. It's kind of a superhero group, kind of like the Avengers or whatever. And then when they go there, these bad guys have taken over the Citadel. And man, look at that Jeff Dee art. I love Jeff Dee, and that'll play into my story in a second here. But I love Jeff Dee's art. You know, he would do a kind of a comic strip. This is like a 1-page thing on the back. But when I was a kid growing up, I was a big fan of John Byrne. And I don't know if Jeff Dee ever liked John Byrne or not. I've never heard him mention John Byrne, but I just love how he makes the anatomy is so solid looking, and I love how he renders that hatching. He kind of feathers out like Terry Austin did a little bit on John Byrne. Some of the, let's see, I like that. Let's see. Oh, there's a good one up front. Where'd that one? This one, I like that character. Somebody in one of the videos said that was Jeff Dee's character, a character named Gauntlet, I think it was. Anyway, that's kind of cool. I love that helmet. The Motivator. I just dig all these drawings. And Jeff Dee did all the art, I believe, in this first book. That's a cool character. There's one. Let me find the one there. I always thought that was cool. The wrecked spaceship. And this is kind of like a throwaway drawing, but it's like a big kaiju over a city. That is so cool to me. And with the Zipatone on it, it's awesome. And there's a little strip there. Yeah. And this is a strip about the Protectors, which I think was Jeff Dee's group, or maybe Jeff Dee and Jack Herman's group. Check out that kind of patriotic superhero. But I loved this game as a kid. So let's see. Okay, so the original box set came with that, or the 2nd edition box set came with that. It came with the module. It came with this, which is kind of a hard character sheet. It came with an errata of rules. It came with this, which is kind of handy. It's like it's that combat matrix or the combat chart. You can see mine's a little. And then it's got That's the some more. That's like damage, like weapon damage. Sorry, and it's got ranges. This is basically a combat sheet. Oh, I didn't realize this was in here. This is. I know exactly what this is. This is the first edition character sheet. I must have stuck it in here. So, well, let me go through this. I'll tell you the story. There's a few more things in here. So this doesn't look like much. It's a referee screen. You probably can't see that, but it unfolds. And that was just in the box. Here's some characters, and I don't know. So one of these, there's two characters in here. I was hoping there's more. There's two characters. And the sad thing is, none of these have names. I don't know if we didn't name our characters or what. This has no name on this, but this is my handwriting. And then I think this is my friend Kevin's handwriting. I think. Yeah. And then I got a couple copies. So then one more thing I wanted to show you in here was this. It's a sheet of miniatures that you can get. Now these miniatures are, I don't know if they're the bad guys. Yeah, they're the bad guys from that Crisis at Crusader Citadel module. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, so the box set came with all this stuff, and I had the box set when I was a kid, and I had this, but not this copy, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And I had these two modules. So this one is called Death Duel with the Destroyers. It's written by Bill Willingham. If you're familiar with the comic book Fables, that was written by Bill Willingham. But Bill Willingham drew a comic book called The Elementals, and he wrote and drew it. And so he did these two modules, and he drew all the art in them too. I don't know if he did the maps or not. Now, this is not my copy because somebody's made notes on this, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you can see he did this comic strip or comic book. He did all of the modules had a comic book on the back. So he did Death Duel with the Destroyers, which is where the heroes fight with this group called the Destroyers. And then this is a sequel, and these are all numbered. So the box set, this is 201, or the box set's 2001, sorry. The first module is 2002, and the rule book is 2000 for some reason, but there's the 2001, I guess, is the box set as a unit. Anyway, so, and then they go, so then this is the sequel, and it turns out Dr. Apocalypse was kind of behind all the chaos before. So you go to his island, it's kind of like a Dr. No kind of thing. You know, anyway, so I had these when I was a kid and we played them. And as far as I remember, this was everything I had. Now, at some point, I lost my original rule book. And I at one point, all of my role-playing stuff got lost. But this box set never got lost. I had this box set. It's the same one I had as a kid. Now, what happened was the game shop near me had a used game rack, and at one point I went in and somebody had turned in all of their Villains and Vigilantes stuff. Now, and I bought it all. I bought everything they had. But if you look, I paid $2 for this original rule book. When I found this in the book, because I knew I'd lost it, so when I found this in there, and this isn't mine because it's got holes punched in it. I wouldn't have done that as a kid. I wouldn't have put a price tag on mine. But when I found this, I was so happy because I found copies of it online, but I kind of wanted it just to have. I didn't really want to spend any money on it because I would play the second edition. The second edition is a little more cleaned up and streamlined. So what did I buy? Well, here's what I bought. I bought all these modules. These are all modules. Now, I haven't played all these. Now, I bought a second copy of The Island of Dr. Apocalypse just because they had it. So I have 204. I have 205, which is called One Man Knows the Secret of Force. And this is written by Thomas Dowd, but Jeff Dee illustrated it. Look at that. I love that. It's like a little, I don't know what you call it, like a little tram car or whatever on the bad guy's island or whatever. Now, I think I may have had this as a kid because some of this looks really familiar. But I mean, look at that art, man. Jeff Dee is awesome. Okay, so let me go through these real quick. Assassin is 206. Now, this copy has the cover torn. I don't know if that happened in my possession. And this is one I bought, I'm sure. The art is not as good in this one. I have 207, which is Opponents Unlimited, 99 cents. Paid 99 cents for this. This is why I bought all these. I mean, I saw them and immediately was like, I'm buying every single one of them. I didn't know what I had and didn't have, so I just bought them. And this has Jeff Dee art. This is just a book of villains to throw against your players. Now let's see, what is that? 207. It's 207. It's 208. Same kind of thing. Villains. This was Jack Herman wrote this one, and it's illustrated by Jeff Dee. I mean, this is worth $1.95 just to see the Jeff Dee art, in my opinion. Okay, that's 208. I can't find anywhere what 209 is, and I don't have a 209. Okay, now this is The Dawn of DNA, which I think is like a cult. I read through it a couple days ago. I read part of it. I think it's like a cult. Again, Jeff Dee art. Cartoon in the back. This one I always wanted as a kid. I don't know if I paid $1 for it or what. It's got a different tag. I don't know where I got it. But it's illustrated by Bill Reinhold. He has done some comic stuff. It's written by Stefan Jones. That name sounds familiar. Oh, he wrote another one of these modules. But this is like about an alien invasion. That's 211. 212. This is a Battle Above the Earth. No, this is the one I really wanted as a kid because I just thought that sounded so cool. It's like, oh man. And they there's a space station that's being attacked. Superheroes have to save it to tackle the totem. I don't know what this is at all. But that's 213. 214, Devil's Domain. Again, I'm not familiar with it. Maybe it's some kind of supernatural thing. Kind of looks like it. 215, The Pentacle Plot. Looks very British for some reason. I don't know what that's about. Written by, again, Stefan Jones. Okay, 216, Stephen Gross. Terror by Night. Sort of a Dracula-looking character. Maybe a carnival on there. 217, Most Wanted Volume 3. Now, there's not a Volume 2. I don't know. Maybe 2 is 209, and I just don't have it. I can't find any information about it. Conversion for Champions. I don't know how you would do that. Well, Champions, you can make anything, but you got to figure out all the deals, all the effects and stuff. You buy your effects with creation points. A lot of math. 218, Preemptive Strike. Again, I don't know a lot about this. This is one of the later ones. Let's see. This is from. Let's see. Let me find a date in here. 2000 or not 2000. 1985. So in 1985, I was out of high school and I didn't play a whole lot of role playing games at that point. 219, Organized Crimes. I don't. This is a module, not a. I thought when I was looking through this. Oh, Patrick Zurcher is the artist on this. This is early Pat Zurcher art. Okay, so this is. So I'm missing. Oh no, here's 221. I'm missing 220. Then I have Search for the Sensei, and this is from 1986. Sort of a martial arts thing, and there was another one that's kind of a martial arts thing, and I that may have been 220. 222, I think, is something called the Great Irradium Con. I thought I had that, but I couldn't find it, so maybe I lost it. But it takes place at a comic book convention. If I can't find that, I may buy it, even though now they're I mean, I paid $1.95 for this. I would probably pay $20 for it now, for the Great Iridium Con. The Super Crooks and Criminals, again, another compilation of villains. So I have a pretty extensive archive of Villains and Vigilantes stuff. Now they did, so it was put out by Fantasy Games Unlimited, and so Jeff Dee and Jack Herman approached them about putting their game out. And so when they're fairly young, apparently. Now Jeff Dee went on to draw a lot of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. There's a book out called, I think it's called The Art of Dungeons and Dragons, something like that. It's got a lot of Jeff Dee stuff in it. And there's a video documentary about the art of Dungeons and Dragons called Eye of the Beholder. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now, and it has some an interview with Jeff Dee, I believe, but I know it talks about Jeff Dee some in there. And like I said, I was a huge fan of his artwork when I was a kid. I thought this stuff was great. He was, I had a pantheon of about 4 artists that I really liked, and he was one of them for sure. Anyway, so Fantasy Games Unlimited owned this. Well, at some point, I think they stopped paying royalties to Jeff Dee and Jack Herman or something. And the book, the game basically, they were releasing modules for quite a while, but eventually the company went out of business. Fantasy Games Unlimited did. So their deal was, their contract stated if the company ever went out of business, they would get the game back. Okay, so about 2013, I am cruising around the internet, and you got to realize, 10 years ago, the internet was a lot different. Now, if you Google something, it will take you to some sort of commercial site. However, back in the day, if you Googled something, well, first off, you probably didn't Google it, but if you look for something, you would probably come up with a fan site. And there were several Villains and Vigilantes fan sites out there. Well, one of the things I found was somehow I found Jeff Dee's website. And I don't know what he was doing at this point. I think he may have been doing computer game stuff. And I don't know anything about that, but I found his website with an address to him, or an email address. And so, just on a whim, I wrote him, and I said, oh, no, I know what it was. On his website, he said he was looking for artists, and he had a link for submissions. So I sent him an email. I said, Jeff, I'm a big fan of your work. I've always loved your artwork. I've loved Villains and Vigilantes. I played tons of it when I was a kid. I would love to work with you on something. And I think that's how that happened. Either I sent him a fan letter or I emailed him about working for him. But anyway, out of that, he went to my website and he said, would you be interested in working on something? I'd love to work on something. And so he goes, and that was the last thing, as I said. I sent him some art, and I said, I would love to work with you on something. Anything you need, just holler at me and we'll talk about it. And 3 years later, I get a reply to that email, and he goes, oh, and he did tell me, he goes, I'm gonna keep your email. I'll keep your email on file. And that's when I was like, okay, hey. So 3 years later, he reaches out to me, and he says, hey, we have gone to court, and we've been fighting with, I think it was Scott Bizer, the publisher of Fantasy Games Unlimited, or the owner or whatever, and we have won the rights to Villains and Vigilantes back. Now, they had produced something called Living Legends in the meantime, and it was kind of an update, and I don't know a lot about that, and I don't know if it's ever available, but he said, would you be interested in doing something? Well, he reached out to me, and then he sent me a link to their Kickstarter, and they were doing a Kickstarter for a game called Mighty Protectors. Mighty Protectors is also Villains and Vigilantes 3.0. Now, I don't know why they've changed the name, but I ended up working with Jeff Dee, and I did the illustrations for a book called War Heroes. War Heroes was one of their Kickstarter stretch goals, and if they made so much money, they were going to do a World War II supplement. And I said, and so, and his, I think his first contact to me was a link to the Kickstarter that had my name on it, and that it would be illustrated by me. And I said, I would love to work on this. And so Jeff Dee sent me a list of characters, and now I didn't draw everything. It was me and Jeff Dee doing stuff. And so Jeff Dee sent, I'm gonna find all. Okay, I drew a car, and I drew lots of tanks and ships, and he sent me what they sent me was like an Excel file, and they had ideas for the costumes. And so there's one I did. Now I didn't know. Oh, and this was 2016 when I did this. So what I didn't know was I didn't know how big they were going to be reproduced. But I tried to emulate Jeff Dee's style and in the old in the old Villains and Vigilantes books. And so I thought this one came out really good. I really like this girl. I forget her name was, like Valkyrie, I think, or something. And did this dirigible. He sent me all kinds of crazy references and stuff to use. Oh, I love this. The armored T-Rex, man. I think there's a movie that has armored Nazi T-Rexes. So I did several Nazi characters. I forget that guy's. Oh, it must have been Augenblick. But I drew these. In fact, I drew them on comic book backing boards because I wanted something I could ink pretty easily. I remember I was doing them at one point. I had to go to the to get tires on my car, and I was at the tire place, and I had a clipboard that I'd keep them on. I kept all my. It was one of those that kind of opens. I keep all my reference material in there that Jeff had sent me. I printed out all that huge Excel thing, and then I would draw them on top, and I'd mark off which ones I had done. Yeah, I mean, see, like I said, I was trying to kind of emulate how Jeff Dee had done them, the classic ones back in the day. And I mean, you could argue about whether I did or didn't or whatever. I mean, I'm not Jeff Dee. I don't claim to be, but I think I did okay by myself. Anyway, but this was really even though I didn't do a lot, I did get to do the cover though. I mean, how cool is that, man? I was very happy with that cover. Now, what's funny is, oh, dude. I've forgotten how cool some of these were. Look at that. It's like some kind of, I don't know. Oh, pagan. What's funny, a couple things are funny about this that I want to tell before I end this video. One is, early on when I was working on these, and this took me a while, to be honest. And I stayed in contact with Jeff. We were good on the time frame and everything. But early on, Jeff said, if you have any problems, here's my cell number. You can call me. And I have to tell you, and I think I still have his number, I was very, very, very intimidated. And I'm not a guy that gets intimidated by stuff like that. I mean, I've been to Marvel Comics twice. I'm friends with the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. I've been around. I've interviewed Frank Frazetta's granddaughter for my podcast. None of that fazes me. But for some reason, I think in part of it was I wanted to be part of this so bad because I love this game so much. I played so much of it as a kid that I was like, man, I want to be part of this. And I was like, oh gosh, don't screw it up. And so I didn't make a lot of money. I mean, we agreed on a price and they gave me the money. So I don't regret any of that. I'm not complaining about that at all. As you can see, I did a lot of work. I forget the number I did. Lots of vehicles. Oh, this is a cool one. This girl's like a snake girl. Oops, she's part snake. I thought that was cool. But I had made up my mind. I was like, I am not calling. He's like, call me if you have any problems. If you have any questions, call me. Just reach out. Don't hesitate. Reach out. And I was like, I'm not calling Jeff Dee. You know, it was not something that that I wanted to do, just because I was because I don't know, I was intimidated by it. I'll be honest. Anyway, so that was kind of the funny thing. Another funny thing that came out of this was I was in a comic group, a local group of comic creators, and people were always posting work. So while I was working on this, I was posting some of these character designs. And some of these are bad guys. That guy's a bad guy. So I post something like this on the Facebook group, and I just got chastised by all these people. Why are you drawing all these swastikas? And I'm like, it's for a World War II game. I mean, I was dumbfounded. Now, this was in 2016. Things were a lot different in 2016. Heck, now I'd probably get kicked off of Facebook, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, that I always thought that was kind of funny, because I was very clear, like, hey, I'm working on this for a role-playing game, you know. But people were still like, oh my gosh, what are you doing with Nazis? Anyway, so that's it. Mighty Protectors, War Heroes, World War II source point book, World War II source book. Anyway, okay, so if you enjoy my art, if you enjoyed seeing my art portion of this, check out my website at scottsackett.org. I'm doing a comic book coming out from Source Point Press called Heaven's Rejects. This was 6 years ago. My art is 6 years better than this. So if you like this, you'll love what I'm doing now. But anyway, and I hope that if you're a fan of Villains and Vigilantes, I hope you'll check out Mighty Protectors. I think Villains and Vigilantes is still available, maybe as a PDF. But I wanted to share that. I wanted to share this for sure, because I want to talk about that, because I'm very proud of my contribution to the Villains and Vigilantes lore, if you want to think of it that way or whatever. It was something I played this a lot as a kid, and so it really meant a lot to me to be part of this. I don't know if Jeff Dee will ever see this. If he does, I want to thank him for letting me be part of it. You know, it's cool. No one can take this away from me. It may go out of print, but you know, if anyone ever plays a World War II game of Mighty Protectors, they're gonna see my art there on the cover. Anyway, okay. Again, thank you for checking this out. I hope that you do play Villains and Vigilantes. I hope that you check out Mighty Protectors. And if somebody's played War Heroes, shoot me a note in the comments. I'd love to hear what they thought about the supplement. Of course, all I did was draw it, but still. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Again, if you like this, please take a second to subscribe. And feel free to comment below, and I'll get back to the comments as soon as I can. Again, I'm Scott Sackett. Thank you very much.